Hi everyone, it's Lydia here. Look, I'm just audio again for this because your girl keeps forgetting to record the intro until 3 days before going live and I can't get in the studio. And it's now 10 p.m. on a Saturday and that's what I'm doing. I'm recording a little intro. Anyway, if you listened to last week's episode, I talked to Calypso about their queer journey to becoming a parent and the IVF route that they're going down. And I think the topic of starting a family is just so massive. All these questions of if you want to, if so, how, and if you do want to, then when. Oh, bloody when is such a massive topic that I can't just have a one and done topic on this decision of if you do, if you don't, and when. So I'm going to dig into it from every angle, partly for my own sanity, and also hopefully it helps your sanity too. The question of when to have kids feels bigger than ever. Like the world is so expensive and all those traditional milestones are so difficult. How are we supposed to own a house that's big enough to keep children in? Like that is absolutely mad to me living in East London. But for women, and actually to be honest, for men, no, let's go down this tangent. I don't think we talk about men's biological clocks enough. We're always talking about women's biological clocks. We need to talk about men's a little more. And I looked into some of the data and I was like, look, do you know what, guys? It's not actually perfect for you lot either. I found out that if the father is over 40, couples are 5 times more likely to take over a year to conceive. And this is even if the female is under 25. So literally the older guy is having the massive impact here. Or if the paternal age is 35 to 40, it's linked to a 20 to 40% higher risk of miscarriage. Again, regardless of the maternal age. And lastly, this one really surprised me, that paternal age over 40 also increases the risk of preterm and low birth weight, again, after adjusting for maternal factors. So, look, this is such an unrelated tangent. It's actually nothing to do with this podcast episode, so maybe I should pick that up in another one. But my point is that women have to be so aware of our biological clocks, and it's so focused on us, even when we're trying to do other things. We're trying to build careers, we're trying to fulfill our goals and just do 1,000 other things. And even though it's such a big narrative, it can get pushed down our list of priorities. And this is really the start of Louisa's story. She was a Shoreditch-dwelling creative, really not thinking about starting a family until actually her early 30s. But when she started to think about it, she realised that timings now, they really matter. From being told she had a 10% success rate if she froze her eggs in her mid-30s, to meeting a man and then natural conception at 37 within a year. She literally met her partner within a year and, had a baby. And this is a very different fertility story. This is one about knowing what you want and actually being ballsy enough to go after it, even if that means bringing up kids on the first date. Honestly, I rate it so hard, just being like, no, this is what I want and I'm going to talk about it with the person that I'm meeting. One thing I want to say is that I'm so conscious when talking about fertility that I really don't want to fearmonger. I don't want to add in any way to the narrative that it should be an all-encompassing topic, but I really want every woman to create the life that they want to live. And I feel like if this episode and if this podcast can give people a little nudge towards the things that they want and going after them and feeling confident to do so, then I'm really happy to have these slightly awkward, slightly controversial conversations. So I guess this is a little bit of a nudge that if you know you want to have kids, then being proactive and conscious in your decision is most likely the best way to go. Louisa's really straight talking and honest in her journey to becoming a mother. And I think you're going to find this take, 1, reassuring, and 2, that it's an antidote to this idea that all is lost in creating a family if you're single at 36. It's definitely not. So that's enough of my yap. Let's get into it. If life feels like a whirlwind of clarity and confusion, pull up a chair. Welcome to The Weird Years. Well, Louisa, welcome to the beige couch.
Thanks, Lydia. So glad to be here.
I'm excited to have someone who actually listens to the podcast on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan since it's launched. And I was saying before, been listening to it every week, look forward to it. So really excited to have this conversation.
I love it. Also, I feel like all of the topics end up because we're having a random chat about something else. And then suddenly I'm like, oh, that's actually really interesting. You should come and talk about it on the podcast, which is what's happened here.
Yeah.
But no, we're going to get into all things around fertility, choosing to have kids, and the decision of who you have kids with and that whole journey. Let's kick off with a little bit of like what you do now, job wise.
Yeah. So I'm a London-based graphic designer / art director / design. And I've been working in the kind of luxury, travel, hospitality field for like 15 odd years. But I've been working for about 17 years.
Are you freelance now?
Yeah, I'm freelance, but I've been doing a 5-month contract at an agency in London.
Oh, okay. So you've got like semi-control over your time now.
Yeah.
That's nice.
But I've been freelance since I found out I was pregnant.
Was that the thing that made you go freelance or coincidence?
It was a bit of a coincidence. I handed in my notice, and then a few days before my last week at my last perm job, I found out I was pregnant. So it just happened coincidentally.
Were you like, oh shit, now I don't get maternity?
Not really, because that company's maternity policy was terrible. So I didn't feel like I was losing out. I felt better for having the freedom of being freelance rather than having a statutory maternity pay.
Yeah, I mean, that's so fair. That's always something though I talk about with friends when they're thinking about leaving jobs. I'm always just like, did you say you still want to try for kids? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, maybe just check.
No, I always knew that I wanted to try and go freelance by the time I was pregnant, or at least like having children, because I didn't want the pressure of going back to work.
Yeah.
9 months, 10 months after the baby is born, just because I've seen so many friends feel so pressurized in that period. Yeah.
That is so something that people don't like talk about enough, is that when you have 1 year of maternity, like often, yeah, you're going back when the baby is 9-10 months old, because obviously you have some time off before, and that's still so small.
Yeah, so small.
Crazy.
And the process of having a baby and that newborn phase, it really does like change your life. In my 20s and like 30s, like seeing friends having children, I always thought, well, as soon as I have a baby, what's going to change? I'll still be the same person. I'll still have the same career goals. But that shattered completely as soon as the baby was born. And I was like, okay, I get it now.
Really? Okay, take me back to you when you're like in your 20s, what your thoughts were around
so just for context, my parents are from Hong Kong, and I grew up in London, went to art school, which was not my parents' first choice for their second daughter, after working in London in a Chinese takeaway for best part of 20 years. They really wanted me to go into something more academic, but that wasn't going to happen. Went to Central St. Martin's.
I mean, at least that's the best art school as well.
It is the best art school,
parents.
but I still had to explain to them, that it's a really good art school. So I was really hell-bent on proving to my parents that I could make a success out of a creative career. And I was doing everything that I could just to make it work. I was renting a really shitty flat in Bethnal Green, working 2 jobs and doing very low paid illustration commissions just to say to my parents, I can make this work. I can be an illustrator and, make it out on my own. And that kind of led to my very topsy-turvy career of going into magazines, editorial, blogging, doing social media work, copywriting. I was basically weaving my way in and out of the creative industries just because I wanted to try new things. Starting a family was never a priority, and it never crossed my mind. Yeah, I guess in my 20s, I really just focused on partying and being like fun, creative, like living in Shoreditch.
Yeah, which is so valid. I mean, that's what you should do when you're a creative in London. But like with your parents coming from Hong Kong, were they quite like, would they have liked you to have had like kids
Oh
younger?
yeah, oh yeah. So I was with my partner at the time for 8 years. So between the age of like 21 and 29. And every
Formative years.
time, it was a long time, and yeah, very like formative years. And every time my parents would see us, the first question would be, when are you buying a house? When are you having
Right.
children? It was like every time. Um, and I think at the time we just ignored that question and then never talked about it as a couple. I mean, no, that's a lie. We probably did have that conversation, but it'll always be, don't want to get married and definitely don't want to have children. But that, I feel like it came more from like his side, and I just kind of went along with it because at the time I was like, oh, well, yeah, maybe I don't want it either. That relationship ended when I was like 30. And then my older sister had her first baby when she was 33, so I would have been 32 at the time, and that's what changed everything for me. Like watching her grow up, just this like amazing thing.
Yeah.
Her name's Nico. Shout out to her. She's 8 now.
Nico's such a great name. That's actually on
Yeah,
my list of great baby names.
it's a great name.
For a girl.
Works for a
Nico.
girl, works for a
Incredible, yeah.
boy. Yeah, so watching her grow up and going on holiday with her and my sister, just getting a glimpse of that motherhood life, yeah, really changed it for me and really made me realize that I wanted that, and I wanted to have that like life that I can nurture. Yeah.
That's so interesting because it was kind of similar for me in that I was always, when I was younger, when I was like 22, I always thought like, oh, I'll get married at like 26, have kids at 28. And then when you get into your career, you're like, it completely falls off your radar because
Yeah.
you're thinking about like, also you get paid so shit in the creative industries when you first come to London that like the idea of having a child at 25 would be like impossible. But you're working up and you're working up. And for me, it was also when my brother and his wife had the baby, and then he's now 2.5, 3, nearly 3. And for me, it was the same thing. I was suddenly like, oh, this actually looks like very difficult, but like really nice. Before then, I hadn't even, like, did your friends have any kids? If you were 30 when you broke up with your ex?
Yeah, at that point, none of my friends had children. A few of my like close colleagues had their first, but no one in my like kind of close friend circle. I'd say like 32 was when I was 32 was when everyone around me was having children. So yeah, it was a combination of my niece being born, everyone around me having kids, that really like spurred on that lust for a family.
Yeah. It's such like, I mean, everyone says that it suddenly happens. And I feel like it did with weddings. I'm still like, how old am I now? I'm 33. I've got a couple of friends. Actually, interestingly, all my friends in Germany have kids.
Yeah.
And they all got like married earlier. Whereas friends in London, a lot of them are still like, oh, yeah, like in the future, like at some point, still really like career focused. I was looking at data actually, I think it was from ONS from 2021. And it like listed the top reasons that people put off, because now people are having kids much later. I think in the 80s, the average age was like 26-ish. And now from 2023, the average age of a first child is 31. So like it's gone up quite a lot. And they listed out the key reasons that people were putting off. And the first one was like financial stability. The second one, which I thought was really interesting, I thought it would be careers, but it was actually like finding a suitable partner, which obviously is such a massive like discourse. If you spend any time on TikTok, anyone who spends time on TikTok, like anyone who talks about the challenges of having kids, all the comments are, well, you've left it too long, you focused on your career, from mainly angry men, or it's women being like, we desperately want children, but we can't find good partners.
Interesting.
It's such a like flip side of, I think number 3 was like career priority and focusing on career goals. But there's this real like divergence of lots of people blaming women and like feminism and women wanting careers on like a declining like rate of birth in the UK. And you're like, well, actually, most women are being like, it's because we can't find good partners.
Yeah, finding good partners is like obviously like you want to have your child with someone you're going to spend the rest of your life with. No one thinks they're going to have a baby with, you know, someone that, you know, their relationship might end. But yeah, I always knew that first partner long-term partner that I had in my 20s, he was never going to be the father of my child, just because his attitude to life was just very much like in the moment. He could never really settle down. I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast, actually. Yeah, I always knew that he was never invested in long-term goals.
Right.
And that for me was a real red flag, in that we were never going to like start a family or like have that like kind of long-term like life plan together.
It's interesting as well. I mean, that happens a lot, doesn't it? I've also had loads of friends who've been in really long-term relationships and they've always been like, I don't want kids. And then they end that relationship and then they're like, oh, actually, I'm not like completely against it. It's like they just couldn't see it in their future with that person.
Yeah.
But they hadn't really like maybe said that to themselves.
Yeah. I think that definitely rings true for my experience with that partner that I had in my 20s, and then had another long-term partner for about 4 years after that, and that ended for various other reasons. It was quite a toxic relationship, and that ended when I was 34, a couple of months before the pandemic. I break up with this partner. I moved back into my parents' house, which is my childhood home in North London. And then the pandemic hits, and then I'm not dating for the foreseeable, I don't know, 6 months, because it wasn't possible. We couldn't meet other people. You know, so many dates involved walked in the park. So that was a real challenge, and it meant that looking for a long-term partner was just off the cards for a long time in that pandemic period.
When you ended it with your long-term partner and then you moved into this next relationship, the one that was a bit toxic, was that like you were going into it thinking in the back of your head, like, okay, now I kind of have kids on my radar?
Yeah, dating through lockdown was an experience because to be honest, at that point, everyone was just looking for one-night stands or short-term things. They were just looking for something to like have a release from this just very like restrictive period of being like locked down and like locked in the house. So people weren't really looking for like long-term relationships. Yeah, that was really difficult. So in the end, I just gave up on even looking because it was just too frustrating to explain to people, well, actually, I'm 34 and I'm not interested in that kind of a relationship. I'm looking for a long-term partner or someone that I feel like I can have a steady relationship with and have children. So I guess I did probably like scare a lot of people off. I think
Were you doing this through apps? Like, was this?
Yes. Hinge. Did I use Tinder? Probably used like Tinder, but it's not really known
that's
for...
not going to find your husband.
No. And I was also using like OkCupid, which is like a very outdated app that I don't think many Gen Zers or even like know what it is. Yeah. But it was where I found like my previous partner. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just like log in and have a look. And then Joseph popped up
Oh my God, so actually on OK Cupid.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't even like heard of that app in such a long time. So I know it was in the world of like Plenty of Fish, right? It was
Plenty of Fish and like Guardian Soulmates.
Oh, don't know that one.
Yeah, that era. It was like the era of like kind of pre-apps, just like dating websites.
But maybe they're a little bit more like, were they ones where people put a bit more information in?
You can put like your whole life story on
Right.
there, and like rather than Hinge, which was like a list of 5 questions, which like really isn't really enough to get to know someone.
Yeah. I want an essay.
Yeah,
That's what I want. Like,
yeah, yeah. I think I basically had an essay on my profile, and like most other people would too.
yeah.
So yeah, I met Joseph in 2021.
And you're how old at this point?
I'm 35, but soon to be 36. And we meet. He drives down from Shropshire to East London, and he stays over for a couple of nights. At this point, we'd already been like talking to each other for a couple of months, maybe. So we knew it was going to go well. We knew that like we could like trust each other and things weren't going to go wrong. And I think 2 days after he'd like stayed with me, we like go out to Brixton. We're just having a walk around Brockwell Park, and that's when I bring up the topic of children, and I say, look, I know we've just met, and you know I don't want to scare you because he was quite a bit younger than me. He's 5 years younger than me. So at this point, I'm nearly 36 and he's 31. Like just laid it out on the table. I said, I'm turning 36 next month. I need to have children. And if you're not interested, then I'm really sorry to say that it's just not going to work out. I'm looking for a partner that wants to do this with me. And, you know, I know we've only met like 48 hours ago, but yeah, I basically laid it out as it is and said, I need to be having children within 1 year.
Wow. Yeah.
Sorry, the relationship moved like quite quickly. We went on our first holiday, like 2 months of like meeting to south of France, just to like spend like some really like solid time with each other. He moves into my house the following year, and then I get pregnant like maybe 11 months after we first met.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was quite a whirlwind. Yeah.
And he was like, had he been thinking that stuff himself? He was like, I want to be a parent. Or was he like, no, I've just met someone who I'm so excited about that I want to do it with you?
The latter.
Yeah.
He really wanted to be a young, like he didn't want to be an old dad, basically. And he was really keen on like starting a family as well. I guess the only thing he was really nervous about at the time was that he was quite early on in his career. So he's in quite a different life stage.
Right.
He's an architect. So he only just finished his further education when he was like 26.
Right.
So he'd only been working for about 4-5 years, whereas at this point, I'm 35, so I've been working for about 14 years.
Yeah.
So I'm here and he's like there. So yeah, I guess that was the only.
And he didn't have any like minor freak out about that conversation. He was just like.
He was surprisingly like very calm. I think he was more impressed that I knew exactly what I wanted, and I'd already like figured out what was going on with like my work life. That, you know, I'd had like a kind of quite traumatic like previous relationship, but I'd already like come out of that and like knew what I wanted and what I was trying to achieve. Yeah, he didn't seem like that fazed by it. So that put my mind and heart at rest.
Yeah. And at this point, so you're 36 when you get pregnant and you conceive naturally?
Sorry, so I was 37 when I conceived.
Yeah.
I was 36 when we met and we conceived naturally, yes. I'd always like feared that I wasn't going to be able to conceive naturally because 6 months into our relationship, I'd had a fertility MOT, they basically like scaremongered me into like thinking that I was not going to have children.
Really?
Yeah, they said that my AMH levels were extremely, extremely low. Yeah, they weren't very helpful. They really scared me.
Yeah. And sorry, how old are you when you did the MOT thing?
36.
Yeah.
36.
Oh my God, I mean, that's a lot, isn't it, for someone?
Yeah, they said you really should be like freezing your eggs when you're like 33 at the very latest. Yeah, I didn't find that experience like helpful at all. They basically just did the test, gave me a report, said that my AMH was extremely low, and that my best chance of conceiving was to like freeze eggs, but it would be like a 10% chance of success rate.
Wow.
I don't know where they got that 10% figure from, but that definitely left me feeling like quite broken. Like my confidence was like just like out the window after that. And I really felt like, okay, IVF was not really like on my radar, but I felt maybe we should try and conceive like naturally first, and just to see whether it would work. I had a few other friends who were going through conceiving issues at the same time, so I felt like I had a lot of people to kind of talk about this topic with. But basically after that fertility MOT, I went on a rampage of YouTube podcasts, listening to so many fertility podcasts, trying to like get as much information as I could about how to prepare my body best for conceiving naturally. Yeah.
What did you do in that journey?
I stopped all of my high intensity workouts, which sounds really lame, but quite a big deal at the time, because I was so into like fitness, wellness, and just like high intensity and like strength workouts was like my jam.
That's so interesting. They say that that's part of the philosophy.
Yeah, a lot of people say that it's the high intensity workouts, it puts your body into like a stress mode, so you're kind of like releasing those hormones, endorphin hormones after your workouts. So I basically stopped doing all of that, was just doing reformer Pilates, stopped drinking, obviously, cut down my caffeine intake, reduced my foods with high estrogen levels, so milk, tofu, chicken. I
didn't know any of those were.
Yeah, I don't know if any of it is true, but basically because 10 years prior to that, my mum had breast cancer. She had like chemotherapy and stuff, but she read a lot of literature that said that foods that are high in estrogen, i.e. milk, tofu, basically anything from like chickens,
interesting,
eggs, like anything that comes from like chickens and cows, that has like quite high estrogen levels, which is not great for your hormonal balance. So I didn't cut it out completely because I love eggs and chicken.
Yeah.
And so I was just very aware of like not over consuming like certain foods.
Yeah.
So diet was a big one, workouts, less caffeine, and that was it really. Just basically, giving my body a bit of a break from all of those things.
I think those MOT things it's really tricky. Like I did a one with fertility. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
I think when I was like 31 and I was still on the pill. I was on like Gederel, so it's like a combined pill. And you do the form and they're like, yeah, it's fine, like if you're on the pill. And then I got the report back and it was like, oh, some level, I don't know what it was, I can't remember. But it was like, you've either got like unbelievably amazing eggs or you've got PCOS. And I was like, okay, well, that's like quite annoying information to get, because that would take me down two completely different routes. And like when
there's no in between.
Yeah,
You either have PCOS or amazing fertility.
exactly. And I was like, well, how is that possible? And then, yeah, like reading about it, I think it nudged me more towards being like, because of your age, it's probably PCOS. So I went back to my doctor and said, like, I did this test. I probably have PCOS. Can I get a test for PCOS? And they were like, yeah, sure. Male doctor like sent me down to have like a scan, and I got there, and the person like doing the scan, which is like, it's, I don't even know what you call it. It's through the through the vagina, straight up there into your ovaries. And she was like, well, we can do it, but you can't diagnose it when you're on the pill, because your ovaries are all like shriveled and strange looking anyway. You wouldn't see like the cysts on the ovaries. So then I was just kind of left like, okay, cool. So they did it anyway, and they were like, yeah, your ovaries look shriveled and weird. That's what they look like. You've been on the pill for 5 years. And in total, I'd been on for like 10 years at least. And so often it like leaves you, those tests like leave you in a bit of a weird place. It's like, I did it because I kept being targeted on Instagram, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. But I think often we're not like set up, the whole of our lives, we're not set up to understand fertility and ovulating. And like, it's not even in the UK, fertility isn't even part of sex education. Like they don't actually teach you about any of that stuff in school.
No, I don't even think I was taught that fertility declines after a certain age at school at all. I just learned, I was just told off, like on the grapevine through friends, oh, by the way, did you know that your fertility declines after the age of 35? I was like, huh, okay, interesting. And that was that. I just kind of,
It's so politicized as well. I think that's the difficult thing, is that it is turned into this political thing of like, people use it to pitch against feminism, and they use it to talk about like just society's obsession with like work culture, that you hear either like, oh yeah, fertility falls off a cliff at 35 with, you know, quotation marks around it, or you hear the flip side where it's like celebrities and stuff, and you read in the newspaper and it's like such and such had a baby at 43.
Yeah.
And they never like mention, you know, people don't have to disclose how they got pregnant, of course, but they don't ever mention like through IVF, or like there was some celebrity who recently had a baby at 50 and they didn't put in that like she used a surrogate. And it's like, yeah, which I understand. She doesn't have to say how she could like had her child. That's fine. But I think as a woman, you like, there's so much like differing information, and that often, it's really easy just to put it off and, as you say, not even think about it until you're 32, 35, older.
Yeah. And, you know, we're not educated to know that you can take like fertility tests, or like freeze your eggs, or, you know, change certain things to your lifestyle to like help with like conceiving, or even just like learn more about your like ovary, like cervix health. It's often like too little too late. Like I have a friend who had some issues with her ovaries and was trying to conceive for about 2 or 3 years, and the NHS were just a bit hopeless of trying to pin down exactly what was going wrong for her, because there was nothing wrong on her husband's side, and from what they saw, like her AMH was like quite high, and she was 32 at the time. And then after like maybe like 2 years of back and forth of like appointments to the hospital, they realized that it was one of her ovaries that just wasn't functioning. So she was only ovulating every other month. So that was what was the issue the whole time.
Yeah, for listeners who don't know this, which I didn't until like 2 months ago, you only ovulate from one ovary at a time. So you go left and right. And the other thing that, I mean, I probably just wasn't paying attention like in school with any of this, but it's also like, it's just one egg. So if you also get a dodgy egg, or you have a dodgy ovary, like you can half your chances across the year, which, as you say, I think there's a lot of focus now on freezing eggs, and companies often will like pay for people to freeze their eggs. Like that's quite a big thing in the UK. They like will sponsor money towards it for their employees. But really, like if we were all being a bit honest with ourselves, like having a fertility MOT at like 28 would probably be like the best thing, because you can make then a really informed decision on what you want.
Yeah. Because then you can actually plan for, okay, my fertility is decent, average, poor. I should be doing this to secure my chances of potentially having a baby. I mean, that feels like quite loaded to even think about. Like, I'm thinking back to when I was 28. Would I want to do that? Yeah, because I wasn't thinking about like children until like a few years later.
Yeah.
But I guess if girls were more educated from an earlier age, that, you know, your fertility declines at this age, you should probably be thinking, or at least like having like conversations with partners about having children by a certain age, then there wouldn't be this panic in your mid-30s. Like Joseph and I were already talking about our son, Cato. We're going to like try and indoctrinate him to have children early. And we're like, well, how early is too early? Like 16?
Oh my God. Okay, no, this is so interesting though, because I often have this debate with my friends, because obviously like, there's no chance I'll be a young mum now. Like I'm 33. So the age that we grew up in was this kind of scaremongering of like, if you have a kid, you kind of have to do everything before then, because then your life cuts off. Like that's always how I felt, was like, if you want to travel the world or you want to build a business, like you have to do it before you have kids.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of pressure to put on someone like in their 20s to go and fulfill everything you might want to do, because once you have a kid, your life is
live
over.
your life before you've like made a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I definitely had that mentality of wanting to achieve, or, you know, have not a high flying career, but I felt like I wanted to like live my life before I settled down. But I guess unfortunately for me, I probably did leave it too late, and it wasn't helped by the fact that, you know, I had quite long-term relationships that just didn't work out. But yeah, I definitely think that you can have an amazing career and like change business, change life goals, change work goals after children. Like life doesn't end once you've had children. It's hard, but yeah.
Yeah. I feel like my hot take now would be, look, like having lived my life to 33, my hot take now would be like, I think if you really, I was never someone who really wanted kids. Like that's never been, we've always as a couple been like, yeah, we'd like to at some point. And then some point, like as you kind of experience, like some point gets like closer and closer as you get further through your 30s. But I think if you're someone who like 100% wants kids, actually doing it younger, when a couple of things. One is that you have lower standards when you're younger. Like once you get to your 30s and you have like a nice standard of living and you go on nice holidays and things, I think it feels scarier to sacrifice any of that. And also you have a career maybe where like you have way more responsibility, so you have less time. And part of me is like, maybe if you just did it, if you really wanted them, if you just did it at like 26, it would actually be easier, because you also have more energy. Like
Yeah,
I'm exhausted.
I think that's the main thing. I mean, my kid is 2 now, and it's hard work. It's a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of early starts, and it's full on for a good like 14 hours every day. And yeah, we're tired a lot of the time. And we always like talk about, oh, well, it would be like so nice if we were just like a couple of years younger. Even if I was like 30, 32, I'd feel like so much more energized. I'd have like so much more like, yeah, just like will to like keep up with the energy levels.
Of interest, how old are your parents? Or like how old were they when they had you and your sister?
So my mum was 25 when she had me, and my dad was 31. But they met when they were super young. mum was 20 when she got married.
Right.
My dad would have been 26.
And you were their second kid, right? So
I was
you're
their
the older sister,
second.
yeah.
So my mum would have been 23 when she had her first. And my dad was 29. So, yeah, very, very young parents.
Yeah, because I think that's one thing that like does make me slightly sad when I think about my life is like my parents got married when he won and didn't have kids. I think my mum must have been like 30-ish when she had my sister, who's 5 years older. So she was like 35, 36 when she had me. And I'm really lucky that like my parents have great health, but it does like I still have my grandma around. Like my gran is 93.
Yeah.
And that sometimes like when I think about growing up, like I was on my like granddad's shoulders, like they were still like young enough. And I think that's one thing that like is hard for me personally when I think about having kids is that, you know, at 50, no wait, like if I have a 20-year-old, it would be I'd already be 53.
And did your mum ever talk about that experience of being like an older parent, or like because she would have been 36 when she had you? Did she ever like talk about how like that was difficult or not?
Not really. I think like because I was the third, it probably didn't feel like that strange. But she was like quite career focused and also was never someone who really wanted kids. It was only like as they'd been married for quite a long time. And I think my dad was like, I want kids. And she was like, yeah, sure. But she did say she was like, oh yeah, we had lots of tests with you. And I was like, okay, cool. And she was like, yeah, we had loads of tests just to make sure like you were going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I passed.
Yeah. So my mum had my youngest sister when she was 34. And this was like the 90s. And at that point, she was already classed as a geriatric mum. And they were already a little bit worried. The only thing that kind of gave the hospital a bit more faith is that she'd already had 3 kids before.
Right.
So they weren't worried on that respect. But I was technically a geriatric mum, like age 37. And yeah,
they don't use that term anymore, thankfully.
They don't, but they do.
Rude.
They do just ask like your age, like every time you go in and like have your scan, because that's the mother's age is the first thing that kind of like determines any health issues around the baby when you're having your scans. But yeah, it was something that I was very conscious of throughout my pregnancy, that the chance of miscarriage are like a little bit higher, like things going wrong. And I was very, very aware that that could happen. So yeah, it was a bit of a scary like pregnancy. I was trying to like just like stay calm, but then every time we'd go into a hospital, that would like send my mind, like I'd be like just going down a spiral of, oh well, this could happen.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's a real like relinquishing of control, because and also you don't know anything until you turn up to the scan. It's like you've got nothing in your body that tells you, you know, if something's wrong, like from a kind of abnormality point of view. It's like there's nothing that in your body that would tell you that.
No,
so you're kind of blind faith.
Yeah, and like the idea of they say that if you have a geriatric pregnancy or an older pregnancy, the chances of things like Downs and like autism triple. And that was something that I was really aware of, and quite scared.
Yeah.
Although, like, you know, they say that you do anything for your baby, like even if they have like long-term illnesses, like mental health issues, but obviously no one wants that. So yeah,
it also puts you in such like a hypothetical, difficult place. Because I was thinking about this, I was like, if I found out that a baby had something like that, I don't even know like what my thought would be. Like the idea of having to make a decision of like whether you want to continue the pregnancy is like a terrifying thought, which can happen at any age, you know, with any condition, but it definitely amplifies the older you get.
Yeah,
I think all this stuff, it's like it weirdly inside me, I almost feel guilty like having these conversations, because it makes you feel like you don't want to scare people and you don't want to like make people feel bad for like the choices that they've made so far, or like if you just haven't met the right person or whatever. But there's there's also like, I think just such a reality that we can't avoid as women, that like we have to have these conversations so that people can make really informed decisions whether they want kids or not.
Yeah, it's still like a stigma. Are you talking about like the stigma of having a child with a disability, or?
Well, I think just like the stigma of having conversations about like declining fertility. Like I feel like that's
Right.
really stigmatized. Like even
Yeah.
with friends, it's like you don't want to say that because obviously you have lots of friends who'd like to have kids who might be a bit older.
Yeah.
And it's like you feel like a bit of a dick even talking about it, but it's like a reality that we have to think about that men don't have to in the same
Yeah,
way.
it's definitely a subject that people struggle to talk about with women and men, because men don't like to think about it because it makes them reflect on, oh, am I ready? Am I ready to be a dad? Does my partner have like fertility issues? And then women don't like to talk about it because it's a topic that they probably put in the back of their mind unless they're actually thinking about conceiving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very awkward. But I feel like in recent years, people have been more open to talk about this topic. And there've been like so many like podcasts and blogs and YouTube channels that are all about like TTC, like trying to conceive.
Right.
So I feel like it is more in the open, but then I feel like within my personal like relationships with like friends and family, it's still a closed topic.
Right. Yeah. It feels like there's so much, I think it's like shrouded in judgment in many ways because I think, yes, people talk about it more, maybe women, like online and in circles, but the massive trend, which I mean, I could do a whole podcast episode on this, but the massive thing that I see is people using it to like shame women for decisions they've made in their career. Like it's such a humongous thing having the podcast. One of the biggest messages, like the biggest comments that I get on videos whenever we're talking about fertility, dating, any of this stuff is like, well, you shouldn't have focused on your career so much, or like this is what you get for like wanting to be a girl boss. Like honestly, those comments like stream in.
So they're literally using it to blame
They blame
women's
feminism.
choices.
Yeah. They're like, feminism is why you're having to have in quotation a baby really late in your life because you've chosen to focus on this. And I think that's where like it's difficult even for women to talk about because it's like it's just such a fucking stigmatized and like unfair conversation.
Yeah, that's a really difficult one because all our lives we're told to pursue our dreams, pursue our career goals,
Don't get pregnant.
and don't get pregnant, and make informed choices. So yeah, to hear that's really shocking. Blows my mind.
Yeah, honestly, spend a day on TikTok. It's the most.
This is why I'm not on TikTok.
It's such a cesspit. Okay, I have 2 questions I want to ask before we wrap up. We'll go into yes or mess. But a couple of things I was thinking. One is like, did you want kids enough that if you hadn't met Joseph, would you have gone down a route of potentially doing it on your own?
Oh, I think I did consider like adoption, surrogacy. Would I have done it on my own? If I didn't meet a partner, then I probably would have tried to adopt on my own. Not ideal, but I probably would have considered. Yeah, I was very scared of the IVF process. If after like trying to conceive naturally that we wouldn't be able to, then if I'd had to go through that IVF process, that would have been scarier than the idea of adopting.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, I kind of feel similar. I've always said that to myself, and obviously I think it changes. Like the older you get, the more you realize it could be like a reality you have to face. But I've always felt the same. I've always felt super fearful of the IVF process. I think it's the hospital and the how clinical it is. Injecting yourself. I'm terrified of like synthetic hormones after being on the pill for so long. Like all of those things feel scary.
Yeah, I get it. I get why people do it,
and it's incredible. Like to have that option now. Like so many more babies are born, and you know people are able to become parents because that's available to them.
Yeah, in that respect, I feel so lucky that we were able to conceive like naturally, because that was like my biggest fear, that after that fertility MOT that I wasn't going to, and that, you know, chances of like starting family were going to be delayed even more, because yeah, after that result, I literally thought that I was going to have to try and conceive naturally for 2 years, because the NHS have to, they say you need to try for 2 years before they'll even consider you for IVF, and then go through the IVF process, which takes another like year to 18 months.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was already like playing out that timeline, after that MOT result, that it was going to be another 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So by that point, I would have been like 40, which I am now.
I mean, you're also lucky that you just look so young that I'm like, it's such a cheat code to just like have amazing genes, because like you don't look like an older, not that you're old, but like an older mum, which was always my thing. I was like, God, I'm aging like sour milk. I'm going to be like fucking grey by the time I have any kids, especially the stress of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I was on a Zoom call with a colleague who is like in Lisbon at the moment, and she was like, "You literally look about 30." She was so shocked when I said I'm 40 next month. But
cheat code. Don't worry about your fertility if you look. No, I'm joking. And then the other question was, are you like a one and done? Is that it now?
No, we do want to have another. We're just like figuring out like finances, our like housing situation, whether we want to stay in London, preschools, primary schools, that whole conversation. Because yeah, it is a lot when you have 2 kids in nursery, like childcare. That's why a lot of parents like kind of make the age gap a bit wider, so that you only have one kid in like nursery, paid nursery, and then the other kid has already started primary school, which is free. So that's what we're talking about now.
Okay, interesting. Lovely. Well, I'm going to wrap it up with a bit of yes or mess. As always, these are 5 rapid fire questions that if you agree with it, it's yes. If you don't, it's a mess. But you can expand on it. Because, so question 1, waiting for the right time to have a baby.
Yes.
Gender reveal parties.
Mess. I mean, we did decide to want to find out the gender because we just couldn't decide on names. But having a party to reveal the gender, mess. I mean, I don't know anyone that does it, to be honest.
I think it's more of an American thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I do think it's quite funny. Not sharing that you're pregnant until after 12 weeks.
Yes.
Unique baby names, aka, this is a favourite, and absolutely no shade to Nara Smith. I've actually just listened to a podcast with her and I really liked it. But one of her children is called Rumble Honey. Rumble Honey Smith.
Yes. I mean, every parent wants like a unique name, but I get it from both sides. We really wanted a unique name, and my son's name is Cato, which is quite rare. It's a Roman name, and Joseph's aunt like basically suggested it to us, and we were like, "Oh, I love the sound of that, Cato." But then I have friends who say they don't want their kids with like weird oddball names because they don't want them to be like picked on at school. So like yeah, they'll have like their kids' names are like Sam and Ned. So yeah, I see it from both sides.
Yeah, I mean, Rumble Honey like might get picked on at school, unfortunately.
Yeah,
that is quite far on the extreme names.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about them.
Last one, which I feel like I'll know the answer to, but saying you want kids on a first date.
Yes. I don't see why would it be a bad idea? Why would it be a bad idea to hide that kind of information? Unless you're going into that date knowing it's very casual and it's not going to turn into anything more than a couple of flings. But then, I don't know, maybe I'm just like a bit old school in that way. I don't like any uncertainty when it comes to it's either like in my like dating history, it was either one night stands or long-term relationships. I was never in like situationships or long-term casual relationships. I didn't really understand. I don't understand that, the point of it, because it just feels like a waste of time.
Yeah.
And I never I didn't, even though like I had long-term relationships that didn't work out, I don't regret any of them. And I guess to like round it off, I always felt like I was making the most of my time. Like in that relationship in my 20s, it felt like I was making the most of living in East London, having a carefree life, you know, living my best like graphic designer, like illustrator, come blogger phase. And then the relationship after that, I was doing a lot of traveling, like bossing it with my career. So I felt like I'd lived lived my life to the fullest in like every like life stage and relationship I was in. So I don't regret like any of those in terms. I don't see them as like time wasted, which like a lot of people have asked me, like, do you feel like those long-term relationships you like wasted time? Like, do you feel like you could have like had children like sooner? Why did that like never like happen for you? But yeah, I guess you always just try to like live in the moment, and you're always trying to think, okay, what is best for me like here and now?
Definitely.
And yeah, I guess I'd always like had that approach, but then I guess from the age of 32 that changed for me, and priorities like shifted.
But also, I mean, in reality, things have worked out really well. Like you met this amazing husband who you adore, who was like, yeah, I'm on board for it.
Yeah, and that is something that I don't take for granted ever. Like I always think about like if I didn't meet him, and if he wasn't so just kind of like on board for like going on this journey and like being fully committed to like our relationship to each other, then this never would have happened.
Yeah.
I don't take that for granted at all. And it's quite amazing that when I tell people that, oh yeah, like I've only known my partner for like 4 years, people like always like double take. I was like, but you got your son is 2. How did that happen?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it just happened very quickly, and yeah, it happened for us. We got pregnant. We decided to like go for it. On the flip side, I have a friend who is pregnant by accident from a one-night stand. I don't know if you've seen the show Catastrophe with Sharon Horgan and Rob Delaney. It's a real-life version of that. They had a one-night stand, and they're now having a baby together, and he's moved into her house, and they've literally known each other for about 3 months.
Oh my God, we need to get them on the pod.
I'll hook you up. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think that's like a nice way to round off, is that, you know, I don't want this chat to leave people thinking like, oh my God, like it won't happen for me. Like there's also in every like turn of your life, no matter how stable your relationship is at any point, or how much you're actually going out there and trying to meet someone, like what happens around the corner is always like a complete fucking mystery. Like you might have what seems to be a perfect marriage, and then things don't work out. Like you can't control.
Honestly, the number of chats I've had with women in like who are like 33, 34, and they're freaking out about their fertility. You know, not that I'm saying like everyone can just leave it until they're like 37 to like start trying to conceive, but you never know. Like I know a woman who was 42 when she had her first, and was like perfectly healthy pregnancy. You could just have very healthy eggs.
Yeah. And if OkCupid wants to sponsor this episode, then
maybe
that's where it's at.
Meet your life partner on OkCupid. No, I'm joking.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. I've enjoyed it.
It's been so good.
It's been fun. I hope this is a podcast everyone will enjoy.